Good morning, students. Today we are about to start poem number 1 of the book. The poem, A Photograph, is written by Shirley Toulson, who was born on May 20, 1924 in England. She is a passionate writer and she is greatly influenced by her father, who was a writer as well. She died at the age of 94 and was a great poet, teacher, journalist, and an editor. In this poem, she recalls her mother and her memories while looking at her childhood photograph. When her mother was 12 years old or so, she has been deceased. Deceased means died. She has been deceased 12 years ago and she can't explain her grief on her mother's loss. This poem by Shirley Toulson is a tribute to her mother. This poem has a thematic relation with the chapter Portrait of the Lady. In Portrait of the Lady, attachment of grandmother and the writer Khushwant Singh has been shown, while in Photograph, attachment of mother and daughter has been highlighted. As the title of poem is A Photograph, and photograph captures memories and memories stay forever, and this only poetess wants to tell through this poem. Now, let us understand line by line explanation of the poem. That is, read the lines of the poem now. The cardboard shows me how it was when two girls, cousins, went paddling, each one holding one of my mother's hands, and she the big girl, some 12 years or so. In these lines, the poet is looking at an old photo album made up of cardboard. In this picture, there are three girls who went paddling. Paddling means walking on the beach. They went paddling on the beach, holding each other's hands. The mother of the poetess is in the middle, and she is the tallest and oldest of the other two. She is around 12 years old when picture was taken. So, here the childhood of the mother has been highlighted. Now, let us understand the next paragraph. All three stood still to smile through their hair at the uncle with the camera. A sweet face, my mother's, that was before I was born, and the sea, which appears to have changed less, washed their terrible transient feet. In these lines, the poetess describes how the photograph was taken. All the three girls stood still to give a pose, and mother's uncle took the photograph. Their wet hair were open and ruffling through the air, and the three girls smiled at the camera. Then the poetess drew her attention towards her mother, saying that her face was sweet and innocent. The photograph was taken long before the poet was born. The poet is now talking about the eternity of nature, that the sea, which washed the small, tender, and temporary feet, has changed less, while the three girls by then had become young and grown older too. Now, let's see the next paragraph. Some 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the snapshot. See, Betty and Dolly, she would say, and look how they dressed us for the beach. Now the poet says that after 20-30 years later, mother would have laughed to see the photographs and would have asked the poetess to look at the cousins, that is, Betty and Dolly, and how their parents would have dressed all three of them for the beach. They would have planned to take a photograph beforehand. Now, see the next paragraph. The sea holiday was her past. Mine is her laughter, both wry with the labored ease of loss. Wry means disappointed. Labored means with a struggle, ease easily, and loss means missed. The poet recalls the sea holiday was her mother's favorite moment, but it became past for the mother when she looked at the photograph after 30 years. While the poetess' favorite moment was her mother's laughter when it had also become past as her mother was no more. Both the women, that is, mother, as well as poetess, would think about those past memories which they can't live again. With the hard labor, they had adjusted to the situation, that is, adjusted to what they had lost. Let's see the last lines. Now, she has been dead nearly as many years as that girl lived, and of this circumstance there is nothing to say at all. Its silence silences. In these lines, the poet says that her mother died 12 years ago, that is, equal to the age her mother that was in the photograph. Whenever the poetess thinks of her mother's death, she can't explain what effect she has of her mother's death. Its silence means the death of her mother has silenced the poetess. That is, she has been left speechless after losing her mother. Now, let's see the literary devices. Alliteration is used here in stood still. Through there, my mother's terribly transient. Silence silences as there is a repetition of consonant sound at the beginning of two consecutive words. Next figure of speech is oxymoron has been used here in the labored ease as the term contradicts itself. Epithet is there in terribly transient as the phrase expresses a quality of the mother. So, we have seen three stanzas here, and three stanza depict three phases. First phase is of mother's childhood, and in second stanza, mother recalls everything mentioned in first stanza, and in the last one, the poetess shares her helplessness after losing her mother, and she has no words to describe her grief. Thus, the poem, A Photograph, is about the mortality of humans and immortality of the nature. The poetess wants to convey that change is the only static thing in life. Change is the law of nature. The theme of the poem Photograph is loss, memory, and transience of life. It explores how people may die, but in a strange way, they continue to live on in the form of memories. While thinking all this, she becomes quiet with sadness of separation from her mother. Through the poem, we realize the essential worth of a picture and how memories of the past prove to be a fuel for future life. So, here ends our poem, and students go through the poem again and complete NCRT questions given at the end of the poem. Extract based questions, and some other questions will also be provided to you so as to comprehend your understanding. Note down the value points which have been told here. So, thank you and have a nice day.